Imagine this, a tiny newborn baby, barely 3 weeks old, wrapped in a silk blanket worth more than most people make in a year, lying helpless on a marble floor while a woman in a $10,000 dress raises her stiletto heel above his chest. The maid is on her knees, tears streaming, begging, screaming, "Please, ma'am, he's only a baby." But the billionaire's fiancé just smiles, and brings the heel down. What you're about to hear in the next hour is the real reason she did it, the secret the family paid millions to bury, and the single photograph that finally destroyed everything. That if you leave before the end of story, you will never find out what was really in that baby's blood, and why she was willing to kill for it. Smash the subscribe button right now so you don't miss the final twist that made millions of viewers gasp out loud. The mansion sat on a cliff above the Pacific like a diamond set in black velvet, lights blazing from every window even though it was 3 in the morning. Inside the East Wing nursery, 24-year-old Rosa Martinez was rocking little Mateo back to sleep for the 4th time that night. The baby had been crying non-stop since sunset, a thin, reedy wail that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than hunger or gas. Rosa had worked for the Valenti family for 7 years. She knew every cry this family's babies made. This one was different. This one sounded afraid. Rosa pressed her lips to the baby's feverish forehead and whispered the Spanish lullaby her own mother had sung to her in a cramped apartment in Tijuana. "Dormit, mi niño, dormit ya." The baby's tiny fist unclenched for a moment, then curled again. Rosa's heart ached with love for him. Mateo wasn't her child. He was the newborn son of billionaire tech mogul Alexander Valenti and his fiancée, the stunning supermodel turned influencer Cassandra Lee, but Rosa had delivered him herself on the bathroom floor when Cassandra went into sudden labor 2 weeks early. She had cut the cord with manicure scissors while Cassandra screamed not from pain but from rage that her body had betrayed her schedule. The nursery door flew open so hard it bounced off the wall. Cassandra stood in the doorway wearing a backless silver gown and 6-inch crystal heels, her platinum hair twisted into a perfect chignon even at this hour. Behind her, photographers' flashes still sparkled in her eyes. She had just come from the pre-gala cocktail party downstairs. The smell of champagne and gardenias rolled into the room like smoke. "He's still crying?" Cassandra's voice was ice over venom. "I can hear him all the way in the grand foyer. Do you know how that looks when I'm trying to convince Vogue to put me on the cover pregnant and then post baby perfect?" Rosa rose slowly, cradling Mateo against her chest. "Miss Cassandra, he's running a fever. I've taken his temperature 3 times. It's 101.8. We should call Dr. Chen." Cassandra stepped into the room, heels clicking like gunshots across the Italian marble. "You woke me up for a fever?" "Babies get fevers, Rosa. That's why God invented Tylenol and nannies." She reached out with manicured fingers and plucked Mateo from Rosa's arms as casually as if he were a handbag. The baby's cry sharpened into a shriek. "Please, miss, he doesn't like to be grabbed like..." "Shoo!" Cassandra held the baby at arm's length, studying him the way she studied dresses on a rack. "Look at these cheeks. He's getting fat. People are already saying he looks nothing like Alex." Her coral lips curled. "They're saying he looks common." Rosa felt her stomach drop. She had heard the rumors swirling below stairs for weeks, that Alexander had been in Singapore the entire time Cassandra claimed they conceived, that the dates didn't add up, that the baby's dark curls and olive skin looked suspiciously like the tennis pro who had mysteriously vanished from the estate 2 months ago. "Miss, he needs to be held against the heart to calm down. Please let me." Cassandra spun on her heel and walked out of the nursery, Mateo dangling upside down by one leg. Rosa ran after her, barefoot, terror flooding her mouth with metal. Down the sweeping staircase they went, past priceless Warhols and Ming vases, past the catering staff who froze mid-step when they saw the maid chasing the mistress with pure panic on her face. They reached the main living room where the pre-gala party was still in full swing, 80 of the richest people on the West Coast laughing behind champagne flutes. Conversation stopped like someone yanked a plug. Every head turned. Phones lifted. Cassandra walked straight to the massive stone fireplace and held Matteo over the flames. Gasps rippled outward. Cassandra. Alexander Valenti's voice cut through the silence like a blade. He was crossing the room in long strides, tuxedo jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled up, face chalk white. Put my son down. Now. Cassandra smiled, that billion-dollar smile she used on red carpets. Your son? Are you sure, darling? She dangled Matteo lower. The baby's blanket brushed the tops of the flames. The smell of singeing silk filled the room. Rosa launched herself forward, grabbing Cassandra's wrist. Poor favor, señorita, he'll burn. Security guards were moving in, but slowly. Nobody wanted to be the one who manhandled the future Mrs. Valenti on camera. Alexander reached them in 4 strides. He wrapped one arm around Cassandra's waist and tried to pull her back, but she twisted like a snake, keeping the baby over the fire. Tell them, she hissed, loud enough for every phone to catch it. Tell them the paternity test you hid in your safe. Tell them why you've been cold to him since the day he was born. Alexander's face crumpled, not with fear for the baby, Rosa realized with a sick lurch, but with guilt. The room erupted. Someone screamed. A woman fainted. Flashes exploded like gunfire, and then Cassandra did the unthinkable. She opened her hand. Matteo fell. Rosa dove, shoulder slamming the marble so hard she felt something tear, fingers closing around the silk blanket just before the baby's head would have struck the stone hearth. She rolled, cradling him against her chest, and looked up through tears to see Cassandra standing over them both, heel raised like an executioner's axe. Don't you dare subscribe to the lie that this child is a Valenti, Cassandra said to the cameras, voice trembling with theatrical rage. This maid knows the truth. She delivered him. She knows whose bastard he really is. Rosa clutched Matteo and scrambled backward on her elbows as the heel came down, once, twice, missing the baby by inches as Rosa twisted away. The crowd was screaming now, some rushing forward, some running out. Alexander stood frozen, staring at the safe in his office upstairs as if it were suddenly transparent. Cassandra's third strike stopped midair. Alexander had finally moved. He caught her wrist so hard the stiletto snapped off in her hand. Get out of my house, he said quietly. Take whatever you want, cars, jewelry, the apartment in Paris, but you are never to come near my son again. Cassandra laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. Your son? Keep him. Keep the little secret swimming in his veins. But when the world finds out what I know, Alexander, your empire burns. She walked out barefoot, broken heel in hand, stepping over millionaires like they were trash. The room fell silent except for Matteo's hiccuping sobs against Rosa's neck. Alexander knelt, reaching for the baby, but Rosa turned away instinctively. His hand hovered in the air, then dropped. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have told you both weeks ago. Rosa looked up, eyes blazing. Told us what, senor? He swallowed. The DNA test came back 99.9% match, but not to me. To my brother. My dead brother. Rosa felt the world tilt. Alexander's older brother, Nicholas Valenti, the golden son who was supposed to have died in a sailing accident 5 years ago. The brother whose billion-dollar trust fund would transfer to his firstborn child the day that child turned 25. The brother whose body had never been found, and then Alexander said the words that would haunt Rosa for the rest of her life: "Nicholas isn't dead, Rosa. He's been hiding. And Cassandra. Cassandra has been sleeping with him for the last 2 years. She got pregnant on purpose. That baby in your arms is the rightful heir to everything I own. And tonight she tried to kill him because she thought if he died before the world knew, the money would go to her anyway." Rosa looked down at Matteo, at the perfect curve of his ear, the dark lashes wet with tears, and felt something ancient and fierce rise up inside her chest. "Over my dead body," she thought. Little did she know that in less than 12 hours, Cassandra would make sure it came to exactly that. By dawn the mansion looked like a war zone. Paparazzi drones buzzed the windows like hornets. News helicopters chopped the air above the cliff. Every major network was running the same grainy phone footage on loop: Cassandra Lee dangling a baby over fire, the maid diving to save him, the billionaire's face crumpling as his empire cracked in real time. Rosa hadn't slept. She sat in the locked nursery with Matteo asleep on her chest, a security guard outside the door who had once been special forces and now answered only to her. Alexander had tried to come in twice. Both times she had refused to open the door. She needed time to process the bomb he had dropped, that the baby she loved more than her own life was not only not Alexander's son, but the living key to a fortune large enough to buy small countries. At 7:12 a.m. her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number: "Play the video. Then decide who the real monster is." See attached was a file. Rosa's thumb hovered. She knew she shouldn't. But she pressed play. The screen filled with Cassandra's face, makeup flawless even at dawn, sitting on the bow of a yacht Rosa recognized, the Valenti family's 300-foot eclipse of the sea. Behind her, the ocean was on fire with sunrise. "By now you've all seen me portrayed as a psychopath who tried to barbecue a baby," Cassandra began, voice honeyed and vicious. "But let me show you the truth the Valenti family has paid billions to hide." She turned the camera to a man standing beside her, tall, dark-haired, scar across one eyebrow. The face that had been on missing posters for 5 years. Nicholas Valenti smiled and waved. The internet exploded. Rosa's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Nicholas was alive. Which meant everything Alexander had built for the last 5 years was stolen. Cassandra's voice continued over footage clearly recorded months earlier: secret meetings in Monaco hotels, Cassandra and Nicholas laughing in bed, Nicholas signing documents that transferred his entire trust into hidden accounts controlled by Cassandra. And then the final clip: Nicholas holding newborn Matteo in the hospital, kissing his forehead, whispering, "You're going to own the world one day, my son." The video ended with Cassandra staring straight into the lens: "Alexander knew I was pregnant with his brother's child and he married me anyway to keep the money in the family. He's the one who ordered me to get rid of the baby when the paternity test came back. I refused. So last night he tried to stage that whole fireplace scene to make me look insane and take my son away forever. But blood doesn't lie. And neither do I. The real heir is coming home." The phone slipped from Rosa's fingers. Within minutes the stock exchange opened and Valenti Enterprises lost $42 billion in 12 minutes. Riots broke out at company headquarters in San Francisco. Employees were crying in the lobby. Alexander pounded on the nursery door again. "Rosa, open up. She's lying. Most of it is deep fake, my team is already proving it." Rosa unlocked the door and stared at him with eyes that had aged a decade overnight. "Which part is the lie, senor? The part where your brother is alive? Or the part where you knew whose baby this was and let me love him anyway?" Alexander's shoulders sagged. "Both. Neither. It's complicated. There is nothing complicated about a baby's life. Downstairs, the front gates crashed open. A convoy of black SUVs roared up the driveway flying no flags. Men in tactical gear poured out, private security, but not Alexander's. Nicholas stepped out of the lead vehicle holding legal papers and a smile sharp enough to cut glass that he was here for his son. What followed was 48 hours of pure chaos. Lawyers descended like locusts. Reporters camped on the lawn. Cassandra live-streamed every moment from the yacht, turning the siege into the most watched reality show in history. Hashtags #BabyValenti and #FireplaceMom trended worldwide. Rosa refused to hand Matteo over. Every time Nicholas's men tried to enter the nursery wing, she stood in the doorway holding the baby and dared them to shoot a maid on camera. The internet crowned her Mama Osa, Mama Bear, and her photo became a meme of maternal fury. On the third night, power to the mansion cut out. Backup generators failed. In the pitch black, Rosa felt cold fingers close around her mouth. A needle pricked her neck. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was Matteo's cry from the crib. She woke up zip-tied in the wine cellar, head pounding, with Cassandra crouching in front of her holding the baby. "Shoo," Cassandra whispered, rocking Matteo gently. For one surreal moment she looked like a normal mother. "I'm not going to hurt him, Rosa. I just need the world to see the truth." She turned the phone camera on Rosa's terrified face. "Tell them," Cassandra said softly. "Tell them what you found in Alexander's safe the night Matteo was born." Rosa's mouth went dry. She had never told a soul. Cassandra leaned closer. "Tell them, or I drop him down the stairs right now and say you did it." Tears rolled down Rosa's cheeks. There was a second paternity test. One Alexander forged. It showed 99.9% match to Nicholas, but the sample wasn't from Matteo. It was from a dead baby they kept in the morgue. Alexander was going to swap the babies, kill Matteo and replace him with a corpse so no one would ever know Nicholas had an heir. Cassandra's eyes widened. Even she hadn't known that part. From the darkness behind them came the slow clap of a single pair of hands. Alexander stepped into the phone's light holding a gun. "Very good, Rosa," he said calmly. "You always were too smart for domestic work." He raised the pistol toward the baby. That was when the wine cellar door exploded inward. Nicholas Valenti strode through the smoke like an avenging god, flanked by U.S. Marshals, the real ones this time. Behind him, FBI agents in windbreakers poured in. Cassandra screamed and tried to run, still clutching Matteo. Nicholas caught her by the hair and took his son into his arms for the first time in public. The baby stopped crying instantly. Alexander dropped the gun and raised his hands, smiling that charming billionaire smile that had fooled the world for years. "Brother," he said pleasantly. "You're late." The marshals cuffed him while reading him his rights for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and about 17 flavors of financial crimes. As they dragged him past Rosa, Alexander leaned in and whispered, "Tell my story one day, Rosa. Tell them I only wanted to protect what was mine." Rosa stood up, zip ties cut by a kind agent, and looked him dead in the eye. "Nothing here was ever yours," she said. "Not the money. Not the company. And definitely not this child." 6 months later the trials were still ongoing, but the ending had already been written. Nicholas Valenti reclaimed his name, his fortune, and his son. He fired every executive who had helped Alexander steal his life and turned the company toward medical research, starting with the rare blood disorder little Matteo had been born with, the one that had caused all those fevers, the one Alexander had planned to hide forever because treating it would cost billions the shareholders didn't want to spend. Cassandra Lee disappeared the night federal agents seized the yacht. Some say she's in Bali. Some say she's dead. Most people don't care anymore, and Rosa Martinez, she never went back to being a maid. Nicholas made her Mateo's legal guardian and co-trustee of the $100 billion fund that will belong to the little boy on his 25th birthday. She moved into the East Wing, this time as family, and every night she rocks Mateo to sleep with the same Spanish lullaby, but sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, she still checks the locks 3 times, because some monsters wear designer dresses, some monsters wear billionaire smiles, and some monsters, God help us all, are the ones who taught the world that a baby's life can be worth more than every dollar on earth, and still not enough to keep him safe. If you felt every second of that story in your chest, do me one favor, smash the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because next week I'm dropping the never-before-seen security footage from the wine cellar, the raw, unedited version that the networks were too scared to air. You won't sleep for days. I promise. See you there.